interviewing you, and congratulations, by the way, for being our new town administrator. When we were interviewing you for that position, you said that you might be open to some assistance being our new town administrator. When we were interviewing you for, I don't know why that's doing that. Sorry. You said you might be open to some assistance at times from maybe myself and Bo with the road commissioner area. Is that still something that you're thinking about?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, I am open to receiving assistance from anybody that has more knowledge than what I hold.
Okay. I've been in touch with the road paving people. I've given them your name, told them that you are the new town administrator, told them that I expected that you would become the road commissioner. They should be giving us numbers for our capital paving budget soon. So we'll be in touch.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one of the other things that we talked about during the interview process and also informally is that we are all willing to help you in whatever way you need help. And if there are people on the board who feel they have an area of expertise, if you could reach out to Vika and let her know what that area might be, that would be really helpful to her, I think. So that would be great. All right, moving on. Oh, we already voted on that. The next item is to authorize a bookkeeper search. And the reason that we're doing this is Vika basically has been the town bookkeeper as well as the town clerk. And going forward, and we've also depended on Marjorie Stratton, and Marjorie has agreed to help us in the interim. But what we're looking at for is a long-term solution. And I had an email this week, and I think you were all on it, from Suzanne Rue, where the school board has said that they are willing to put 40% of the value of that position in their budget, so that we would go back to the model we had when we had Randall, and sharing a bookkeeper between the town and the school, hoping to make a more smooth, making town finance a little bit smoother. And so is there a motion to authorize a bookkeeper search? Jay?
That's fine. A quick question. I thought we already advertised for bookkeeper.
We did advertise, but we've never authorized it. We just put it out there.
So what we're doing is we're catching up to what we've done.
Right.
Okay.
And we could always pull it.
So I move we authorize the search for a bookkeeper post-actively.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. That was Bo, I think, who was the
Yes.
first one in with the second. All right, so quickly, Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Ms. Beleska,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
and Ms. Damon is yes, unanimous. All right, the next item on the agenda is to authorize the town administrator to spend an additional $28,825 from the dredging reserve account to complete the town's first 10% obligation for dredging costs. The bid came in higher than what they had expected, but it's within the money that we had budgeted. So do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience, the attendees? All right, Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Ms. Beleska,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
and Ms. Damon is yes. So what we're assuming is that the second payment, which we will be talking about probably under the budget workshop, for the dredging when it's completed, will be approximately $228,825. So just to be thinking about that number. All right, 22004. To co-sponsor a mailing with the Island Institute regarding the Zoom housing series. And so we had some feedback in the community that a lot of people didn't know that this was happening, although we had advertised it quite a bit. And so the idea is to send out a postcard about next week's housing discussion. And it won't cost the town anything. We have an anonymous donor. This is basically what it'll say. Shebig Island and the Island Institute housing discussion via Zoom, Wednesday, January 12th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Sponsored by the town and the Island Institute. This will be the third in a series of conversations on housing. The focus of this conversation will be envisioning possibilities. Please plan to attend and lend your voice to the discussion, and it gives the meeting ID. And it will be posted also on the website and around town. Is there any discussion on that before I ask for a motion? All right, seeing none. Do we have a motion to send that out? Bo,
I move to co-sponsor a mailing with the Island Institute regarding the Zoom housing series.
is there a second?
Second.
Mark seconded. All right, any discussion? Any discussion from the attendees? Jen,
You just might want to put on the postcard, in fine print that the mailing is being paid for by an anonymous donor so that people don't think the town is paying for the mailing.
I will do that unless they've already printed the postcards. Hopefully they haven't already printed them. That's a good upgrade.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is any of this going to go through the town office at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't think you guys have to do anything on this.
Okay.
And the only cost is the mail, is the postage. Okay, so did we have a motion? Okay,
Yes.
moved and seconded? All right.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Beaupre? Oh, you
Yes.
already said yes in advance. Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and I'm yes, so it's unanimous. All right, the next one is to appoint a member to the Facilities Committee. We had a request from the Facilities Committee that they needed some expertise, and David Brunner volunteered to provide some of that architectural expertise. Do we have a motion to appoint David Brunner as a member of the Facilities Committee?
So moved.
It's been moved. Seconded? Do we have a second? Jen, seconded by Jen Beleska. All right, Mr. Beaupre,
Just wondering if I should recuse myself because I'm part of the committee, or does that matter?
I don't think it matters.
All right.
And so are you saying yes?
Yes.
Mark,
Sorry.
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and I'm yes. So that's unanimous. All right, the next item on the agenda is to consider purchasing high-resolution aerial photographs for various town purposes. And this was brought to us by Carol White a couple of meetings ago, or a couple of weeks ago, and we added it to the agenda. And since that time, I've had communication with Carol and Bob Ernest. And I think there's a memo in your packet that breaks down the cost. The planning board has felt that they can contribute $2,000 out of their budget. And I'm suggesting that we take 1,000, I've got it written down here, $1,850 out of the selectmen's contingency to make up the difference. And we got a letter of endorsement from the code enforcement officer. Is there anyone who has any questions on the board? Oh,
What's that dollar amount again?
the total dollar amount or the dollar amount?
To make the
Selectmen?
motion, it's 1,800.
1,850. So the motion would be 2,000 from the planning board budget and 1,850 from the selectmen's contingency.
Thank you.
And Carol White has said if anybody has a technical question, she's willing to answer or help answer. All right. Do we have a motion? Okay, Jen?
Do you want me to say it or can I just say so moved?
Why don't you just say both numbers just so that we have it?
I make a motion that we are getting $2,000 from the planning board and $1,850 from the Board of Select, and to put towards the main imagery program.
And could you add to that and to authorize the town administrator to sign the necessary contracts?
Yes, I can. Done.
You got that, Chris?
Second.
Okay, so both seconded. Any questions from the attendees? All right, seeing none. Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes,
Ms. Beleska,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Absolutely.
and Ms. Damon is yes. So that is moved on. So we now are at the budget workshop. And that's a record with 6:16. I'd like the record. I would like that the minutes to note.
I
The budget workshop.
texted Justin about 2 minutes ago.
Okay, he probably can't believe it, so. So you can, while you're getting your papers ready, and those of you, I believe this is in the online packet for those attendees who want to follow along. And I'm going to turn it over to Mark for the budget section because he is the budget chair. And then we'll come when I'll take over again when we get back to communications.
thank you,
If you can
Donna.
do this in 16 minutes, Mark, I've set a goal.
Thank you, Donna. So this is just the initial presentation to everyone in public of this first draft of this budget, obviously that Justin has worked up. And then to quickly discuss any budget goals that any of us may have for the upcoming budget season. I know Justin's not on here yet. At first glance, some of the departmental budgets are up fairly significantly. An example of that would be the fire department wages budget. I've actually talked to Ralph. It's a pretty simple thing for everybody to figure out. We are lacking enough coverage, mostly for our rescue squad. And it looks like we're going to have to consider some more money in there for per diem wages activity for bringing in paid professional help. That's why that's in there. You'll notice in the other departments, the wages are also up due to a recommendation of, I believe, step increases along with at least a 4% cost of living adjustment recommendation. And then just like last year, Donna, I noticed with the capital budget list that Trio doesn't seem to print out the entire list. In other words, an example of that would be the Stone Wharf Reserve does not appear on that list. And I don't know if we're going to consider any money in that when we get to the capital discussion or not. But remember last year, we had to ask Marjorie for another, more of a complete list, if you will. Do you remember that?
Yes, because it basically didn't give us the whole history and we weren't able to see how much was in there. And so I think that's really an important piece. If somehow, Vika, you can get that out of there.
Yeah, so Vika, do you understand my point?
You want a more detailed list of specifically the capital improvements budget printed.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Trio works, and I know you guys are, but I think probably Trio prints out the active list. Is that accurate?
With Trio, what it prints out is what you selected to. And so it's the matter of going through and selecting specific categories. And so
Yeah.
with something like this, I think it's what Justin has is kind of basics for easy, simple read. But if you want something that's just the Department 9,000 for capital improvements, we can print out just that particular department with a lot more details in it.
Well, the rest of the selectmen, select board can speak up for themselves, obviously. I'm suggesting that if we have a list of capital improvement, line items, even if we haven't funded them in the last year or two, I think we should have them to look at in case someone does think that something should be considered for this next budget.
Yeah, I guess I think that I agree with you. And I think that we should have not just the lines, but I think we should know how much is in that right now before the budget. For example, say we're talking about paving. How much do we put in this year, that year, whatever, but then how much is there, how much is in there before we look at the budget? Or
Yeah,
maybe it's an
yeah.
ambulance fund or something.
Right, it's a good point. For instance, in the Stone Wharf Reserve, there's right around probably $400,000. So it would be very helpful for all of us in the public to be able to see that for the next, once we dig into the budget session. And I believe the first meeting on the 11th is capital. Is that correct? Yes. So the meeting on Tuesday, the 11th, is budget workshop, first draft of the budget and capital expenditures. So I'm not sure specifically when it says first draft of the budget, that doesn't mean we're going through departments, because the meeting after that, which is February 12th, is specifically departmental budgets. Does that make sense, Donna?
Yes. Except all my papers just fell and now I can't find oh, here it is. Right, so on the 11th, we would only be talking about, oh no, I guess, so you're saying so we're not really delving into the capital budget on that one?
On the 11th?
Yeah. It says first draft of the budget presented.
Well, I'm
Yeah, it says
asking,
capital after that.
yeah, I'm asking you all how you're reading that, how you're interpreting that schedule language, and what you would like to do on the 11th. Would you like to focus on capital and worry about the departments the next meeting, which is what we have on the 12th of February?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Are we Jay, go ahead, sorry.
I think I'd like to make the suggestion that we pick whatever date we're discussing things, that we pick a very specific range of let's talk about the capital budget, and let's actually delve into it and maybe move through it and actually accomplish something, come to some agreement as to what we want to do. On another date, let's go through the expense budget item by item. And I mean, I went through this page by page, and I've got a significant number of comments on virtually every page.
Yep.
And let's focus enough. I mean, tonight we're just sort of rambling all over the place. Let's focus on things so we can actually get somewhere with this and start to move through it in an efficient way.
Yeah, tonight is basically to discuss the goals and priorities. But looking at this schedule, it says Wednesday, the 11th. That should be Tuesday, the 11th, right?
Says Tuesday, the 11th.
Not on the sheet that I have.
No.
Yeah.
The one that was in the packet says Tuesday, 11th.
Mine just came out
Whatever.
of, mine came out of the packet. I don't know. Maybe I got my packet early and the mistake was found. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, it does say Tuesday, the 11th.
So,
So anyway, instead of waiting for Justin, I'm gonna suggest that you guys just have the opportunity, each one of you. I'll start with Bo.
Mark, I thought of something. I think it's next Tuesday Justin's going to join us.
He's here right now. He just logged in. I just put him in.
That's what I've been trying to tell you guys. Mark, I do agree. I wanted to say I do agree with getting all the 9,000. I think it'd be good. See if there's any monies in there that we haven't noticed. Maybe we can shift that to different departments.
Yeah. Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on. I'll be with you in just a second. So just like you said, Jay, we'll do some general questions if you'd like to Justin tonight. If you have any goals and priorities, you can state those. And then on Tuesday, the 11th, we will focus on capital budgeting. And then on February 12th, we will focus just on each department. And then you can have your specific questions, each person, if they'd like, on even specific line items and recommendations, if you want to make recommendations of adjustments. Sound good?
Mark, Chris had her hand up a minute ago.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think you clarified it. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows it is Tuesday, the 11th. That's not a mistake. That's just a separate meeting for just that purpose.
Right. No,
It is.
mine said Wednesday. That was the problem.
Oh,
Gotcha.
I did.
No,
Sorry about that.
mine said Wednesday. I'm the
Oh.
one for some reason, I've got a different sheet than everybody else.
Okay.
discussion.
So where we are is this item tonight basically says to set goals and priorities. But I'm going to give you guys an opportunity, Justin, if you want to speak very quickly on anything of how the first draft of this budget was developed, go right ahead. And then we will go to goals and priorities from individuals.
Sure. So the big numbers on here, just on a real high level, is the COLAs. As you know, we're looking at a 6% inflation rate. It looked like it was transitory in the beginning. I estimated all of this at about 4%. There was recently a poll on the listserv, and that's probably on the low end of what most towns are doing, with now looking at this probably isn't transitory. It looks like it's long-term inflationary pressures. But this budget is based on 4%. The other major increase is in the fire department. Ralph has some initiatives about per diem firefighters. He wants to start a conversation about that. Other than that, I don't recall there being any other large changes other than just trying to align costs with what they actually are. Capital is what it is. I tried to keep the lines on what it's going to be based on the plan about when new fire trucks were going to come on and things like that, and just what I thought were the needs moving forward. But there is the capital budget is smaller this year in compared to other years. And if you were to look at the total number, even with the increases in salaries and in the fire department, the current town budget is very close to what it was last year with what I'm proposing here, if the school department doesn't go up very much. So if they go up, that would drive up a mill increase under the current scenario. I'll just leave it at that unless you have any specific questions.
Specific questions for Justin from anyone? Go ahead, Bo.
Line item 5010, which is audit. You got it down for 15,000. Do you think that'll be adequate enough
Let me check.
based on your experience on that?
5010. Oh, under admin, right? Yeah, I'm looking in the wrong places here.
Yes, yeah. The
Yes,
part of 1300.
Sorry,
Don't worry about it.
I'm already getting my department numbers confused. So, so I raised it a little bit. That's probably being fairly conservative based on what it may cost, but it really depends on what you're able to get from services for a bookkeeper. The current audit will probably not be that much more expensive than previous years because Marjorie did all the year end and she put it all together like you had before. So I wouldn't expect it to go up that much. I had initially added some more money in here, just not knowing how long she would be around and what the situation would be. Having a bookkeeper that would be able to basically put it all together in a nice package with a bow on it for the auditor.
Just as a
So I
follow-up
think-
to,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead, Bo. What was your question?
I just had some other questions and stuff that I wanted to ask Justin and then have somebody else ask him questions. That's all right, Mark?
Sure.
All right. The rental equipment, that same page, is that the printer?
Yes.
All right. The other, sorry, I got to flip through my pages.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There been any progress on finding an auditor?
No, I had discussed at either the meeting right before I left or the one before that, we'd gone out 3 different times and I suggested that you wait until after the holidays because you hadn't gotten any responses from any of those. And hopefully maybe they'll pay a little more attention now. I'm not sure. The answer is no.
Thank you.
My other question is that the law enforcement services, do we get a contract yet? Or-
No, it's too early. So it's completely based on last year. So I would expect there to be some increase in that line.
Okay. The wages that you have for the fire rescue services for the per diem EMS, wouldn't that be under contract services? Because wouldn't we have to do a contract with them?
They haven't, the one that you had last year wasn't contracted. He was brought on as a town employee.
Okay. So they would all be, even if they're from a different department and stuff like that?
If you follow the same model, because what they are is they're not really working. If they're a Yarmouth firefighter, for example, when they come over to do per diem, they're not working as a Yarmouth Fire Department employee. They're working as an individual.
Okay. And several places I've noticed you put down increase to reflect actual cost.
Yep.
Did you explain that? What do you mean by that?
So for example, if we're still looking at fire down at 6110 communications, those are the radios. We've been budgeting, 5,000, but the prices were 6,000 one year, and they're already halfway there, and they usually replace that stuff towards the end of the year when they figure out how much money they have left. So it's really been under budgeted, and they're sort of eating the rest of their budget to buy the things they need at the end of the year. So I was just pointing out that the average costs are actually higher than what's been budgeted in the recent past.
Okay. The other things, and I didn't notice anything in the capital for an estimate on the bond out for broadband. Or if
I didn't put anything in there because I don't anticipate there actually being a payment in the next fiscal year, because if you borrow from the bond bank, like say they were to borrow next spring, if they were ready by then, there wouldn't be a payment due until the following October and November, which would be your next fiscal year. So I didn't put anything in there. If you were to bond more quickly than that, if they were all ready to go, say next month, and they wanted to do like in April, they may have already missed that deadline, but if they were, then you might need a little bit. The first payment is always interest only, so it would be a very small first payment, and then the following spring or fall, depending when you issue, is when the first payment hits. So I wouldn't expect there to be anything in the next budget. It would be the following one.
Okay, what about the Stone Pier one? Same or dredging, I should say.
Dredging, dredging depends when you want to pay it. So there is, it's sort of the same deal. So we're coming into the end of this fiscal year. If they were to dredge now, you would do a fall borrow. If you wanted to do it through the bond bank, you would do a fall borrow, and there would be a small payment due in the spring. But that question hadn't really been answered about how you wanted to handle that, because there is some money still available. If you wanted to put it in the budget as a capital item, you could, or some portion of the 250, so you didn't borrow it all. Or you could go through a private lender like Machias Savings Bank, and you'd have the opportunity to pay it back faster. So because none of those things were answered yet, I didn't feel comfortable putting a number in there at this time, but certainly it's a good point to make. And as you make those decisions, you're going to want to add something depending on the route that you take to pay for that.
All right, last question. How's the new job going?
It's going good. I'm still kind of drowning, but it's good.
Go
All right.
ahead, Jay. Thank you, Bo. Go right ahead, Jay.
Oh, thank you. Since we voted to go ahead with broadband, subject to grants and so forth, there was nothing in this budget about the costs that are going to be involved on the part of the town that won't be bonded, and things like additional legal fees, oversight of the construction, stuff that probably could easily run to 100 grand. So the question is none of that was in the budget. We don't, I mean, I can understand why, because we don't even know if they're going to get the grants, but somehow we have to account in this coming budget for the potential costs of this new business that the town has voted for. And since we're going to own it, we have responsibilities, oversight of construction and a lot of other things that aren't going to be part of that's just going to be costs that we're going to have to absorb, and they're not going to be small. So how do you think we should go about preparing this budget to include those?
So there's 50,000 in the broadband reserve account that could be used for some of those purchases. So if you believe that the project is going to start in earnest, like starting next fall or next spring, and that they might actually be building it out by then, which I'm not sure. I'm not saying that won't happen. I would recommend that you just add more money into the broadband reserve account as part of this year's budget to pay for those ancillary costs.
Okay, and we should up the legal as well.
You could, or you could in theory take it out of that broadband reserve, because the definition is just to, it's basically to support whatever initiative is in that project. So however you feel you want to do it, that would be true. You could either bill it out directly under legal services so that you know that that's what it was, or you could charge all of that stuff to the broadband reserve account.
Okay, thank you.
All set, Jay?
Yep.
Go ahead, Jen.
Thanks, Justin, for being here. And I was wondering how easy it is, and Vika, you can probably answer this as well. When we did all the school budgets, there was a line item on the end that had like the proposed percent increase. And that I always found that really helpful to put that, tack that onto the end. So at least, you know, you kind of know where you stand. And I wondered how easy that could be added.
It's as easy as checking a box. I just didn't pick that one. So you could add another column. I think there's enough columns here, but if not, you just have to take, you know, the 2020 actual out or something if there isn't enough. There's only so many lines you can put across, but it's easy as checking a box on the software program.
Yeah, I would just put a word
sometimes in
for
the
checking
past,
that
what we
box.
had is, oh, sorry, sometimes in the past, what we had, instead of like the dollar number that you're seeing now, it was a percentage number. So it's just like Justin said, it's just a matter of checking the right one. So I think that could be printed out based on how you want to see it.
Awesome. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, I know that barging is significantly going up. We just looked into barging a personal vehicle off, and it's gone up 50% with Lionel Plant. And I wondered if we have looked into getting some numbers from him, or if he has provided numbers to us for what it's going to take to, you know, barge off containers and whatnot.
What he did send, and which I think Mark got to, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but the trucking is going to be more. I think it's $25 or $50 more an hour for the truck charge. I didn't receive anything about the barging price per se going up, other than the truck charges for them to take stuff on and off. In any event, it's not accounted for in here. So if there is an increase and you do find that out, you would want to take that into account.
Thank you. And then the other question I had was in the chipping line. I can't remember what line that is. But it was 21,000 for brush and chipping. Who does that go to? Do we have somebody come in to do that?
Yes. So there's a vendor that's been coming out for the past, I don't know, someone else would have to answer how many years he's been doing it. But he brings out a big chipping machine and sits there for, it's usually about a week. And Chuck and Doug sit there with him and load the machines up with all of the, well, they don't load the machines up. They take the chips and they pile them where you see them, where they're piled up. So it's about a week's worth of time. So my question always was, should there be a fee to put stuff in the dump, in the brush dump? And I don't know the answer to that, but that was a question. That was the note that you see on there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
All set, Jen? Go ahead, Bo.
Just wondering if we should have Vika get in contact with Lionel Plant and see if we can get some kind of numbers so that we can get some good numbers.
Sure. The thing that I received from Lionel Plant for my business said that the barging costs were going to be going up 10%, whatever that means to the town. What it meant to me as a business is every time I bring a truck, it's $400 or $500. So it would be 440 or 400 or 550. But I have not confirmed that with a conversation yet with Coley. So yeah, it's probably a good idea to get clarification at some point.
I can send them an email.
Thank you.
You all set, Bo? Other questions, Donna or Anyone?
I don't have anything specific right now. I mean, I just think that we're gonna have to work through this and try to, the big discussion is going to be how much more do we add to capital? Because as Justin said, he's got it pretty much bottom line, but the
Yeah.
capital budget is a lot less. And so we're going to have to talk about some of these projects that we have in the works, you know, that we're waiting to find out from the Stone Wharf, we're waiting to find out from Indian Island, we're waiting to find out, you know, about a lot of different things. So broadband, there's so many question marks up in the air. We've got to make the decision about how we're going to fund the second payment for dredging. And so those are all going to be discussions, capital discussions, really. The
Yeah.
only thing I did want to say is I got a notice from Social Security, and they are putting a COLA of over 5%. Now, probably Medicare is going up over 5% too, because usually when you get a COLA, they decide that Medicare is going, so you don't really get any more money. But so I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Donna. Justin, really quickly, I just want to make sure I understand, and excuse me if I'm not getting this from you, from your budget, but on the wages line item, you say that it's based on a 4% cost of living adjustment. But if you look at page 1, this is my question to you. If you look at page 1 under the admin budget and you take full-time wages, line 1,000, and you would take the $160,400 for the basis number, is that accurate?
Sort of, because there's some part-time people in there, and some of that money is not necessarily used for them. So like Marjorie is different. I didn't apply a COLA to what we pay Marjorie. So it might not, looking at it face value, it might not line up to just that. But the intent is that it's 4% increase.
Okay.
And with that line right there in particular, with the full-time employees, it applies to their pay scales, not necessarily what they're getting paid right now. So they're going to move their COLA, their 4% COLA with some individuals is going to apply to their next step as well, which is their steps, as we agreed to, are 3.5%, 4% too. So if they happen to not be at the top of the scale, they're moving up closer to 8% in total.
I got you.
That makes sense?
So that's why taking that number and multiplying it times 0.04 does not reflect the final number on the right.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more specific questions, or anyone want to say what their goals or priorities are moving forward before we exit this section? Okay. My goals don't change year to year. I'm always looking to try to keep the budget as flat and manageable as possible. And I know that's a difficult thing to do these days, but it usually doesn't change with me. So moving forward, I will be open to creative ways to do that. Donna, did you want me to talk about anything else with budget right now before I give this back to you tonight?
No, but one of my priorities would be that we finish the roads and that we do whatever needs to be done between now and then, you know, for the paving or whatever, that we try to get as much done of that as we can.
Yeah, so while you mentioned that, like I said earlier, I have been in touch with as of today, actually, to make sure that 2 members of the All States Asphalt Company understand that we need the numbers for repaving Chandler's Cove Road, Old Cart Road, the tops of Fenderson and Caps Road for this upcoming consideration of capital budget discussions, and that we also, based upon how those budget meetings go and whether that gets into a town warrant vote or not for the voters to consider for June. Set a tentative schedule for that and the chip sealing program that we're not able to accomplish this year, that we have the money already in the budget for. So Ron Simbari and or Doug Fowler will be sending something. Vika should get it at the town office as the town administrator through that email. I will also get it, and then it will be forwarded to all of you so that you will have it for the numbers for those roads. Okay.
Just a quick question. So say we got everything, we got just about done. I mean, we still would have the Stone Wharf Road, or, you know, we might have special projects. But that's been a big chunk of our capital budget every year. What would you think the maintenance number would be to go in once all the roads are done, looking forward?
I don't know if I could state that certainly tonight. I think that's probably a little bit of a bigger discussion with the road committee and the All States people at some point.
I mean, I was just wondering, can we go from 175 maybe to 50? And, you know, over time be collecting money to do whatever we do. But like you're saying, you need a new long-range plan once this plan is done.
Yeah, no, I would certainly think there would be a significant reduction in that needed budgeting line. Even it would go from capital over to maintenance or something. But there will be some loose ends that, you know, the Stone Wharf Road is obviously something all to itself. The parking lot at the public safety building in the town office is going to need to be looked at. The school, I guess, is in decent shape now, but it's gonna need to be glanced at to make sure that it's gonna hold up, and stuff like that. So Schoolhouse Road, I guess that is going to get double paved, not double chip sealed. So yeah, should go down, Donna. Thank you.
Because I guess I'm thinking, you know, long-term, as we pick up some of these new projects, we'll have some projects that will be kind of retiring. So I think it's something to be thinking about when we're thinking long-term, that some of these costs that we've had the first 10 or 15 years of being a town will change. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyone else have a question of Mark? Anyone in the audience, any attendees have any road questions? Okay, I just want to clarify. I found out that, and I think you all got the same, if you looked in your chat, Beverly Johnson, who had volunteered to develop that, not pay for it, but develop that flyer that was going out about the housing, said that they had hoped to use the town office, and then she had spoken to Chris to print it there. So I just didn't want to mislead anybody. I didn't know that part of the information. And she said they will put on that, she will put on it that it is an anonymous donor. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, great. All right. So now moving along quickly, I have to find the rest of my notes here. Buried under paper. The next thing is communications. I think you all saw in your packet that we had a letter. Oh, you guys have a question? Oh, Justin, thank you for coming. You mean you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting?
Everybody, take care. And Vika, please, if I can help with anything, make sure you reach out, okay?
And thank you, Justin, for
All right.
everything you've
Thank you,
done.
Justin.
Take care. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck.
So everyone got that memo from Matt Ridgway about people being concerned about people being in the freight shed without masks on. And I have to say that I was in there on Sunday and I was the only person with a mask. And we know that right now there are several families on Shebig that have been, or related to Shebig, that have been significantly impacted by the virus. And so so Matt was under the assumption that we owned the freight shed. We don't own anything over there except for the float. So I called Nat Tupper and had a discussion with him. And Nat Tupper is willing to have us create a sign that would say masks are required in the freight shed. And it could be signed by the town, authorized by the town of Shebig and the town of Yarmouth. And it's estimated that a sign could be made for less than $100. And CTC has volunteered to install it. So I would like to have a motion, if anybody is so inclined, to authorize the town administrator to order a sign. And we can have a discussion about it, but if we don't have a motion, there's no sense to discuss it. Yes, Bo.
I'm in agreement to order a sign. I'm willing to make the motion, but to do some kind of fine, there's no way we can enforce that.
Well, I didn't say we'd have a fine. I just said it was.
Okay. Then I misunderstood you. All
No,
right.
I said it was going to be sponsored by the town of Yarmouth, and then, did you think that we were going to have a fine and Yarmouth would get all the money and we would just be spending it?
All right. So I move that we put a sign up in the freight shed with whatever Donna just said that it should say.
Tasks required.
Masks are required per
masks
the town of
required.
Shebig. It should be on the outside before anybody goes in. Because, there are little children who don't have masks yet. There are babies on this island that are in there, and it's serious. So you made the motion. Mark, you seconded?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Jen?
I have no problem with putting up a sign. Why wouldn't we just, make a sign and laminate it and, staple it up? Why does it have to be, $100 sign?
It doesn't have to be
Just not
100. I'm just saying, in fact, I thought it would be more like 50. I'm just saying not to spend more than a certain amount of money. But the reason would be so that it could be installed and attached to the building, so it would be more difficult to take down. If we put a laminated sign up there, it's not going to last 15 minutes with some of the people who don't want to wear masks on this island.
I disagree, and I would try it that way just because I'm cheap. So there you go.
Okay. Well, they didn't have any problem taking down the street signs, so I guess, but that's, Jay?
Totally.
I'd like to agree with Jen. Why don't we just try laminated signs? They cost us virtually nothing. Put them up. And if they don't last, then we'll move to plan B.
All right. So there's two people who have that opinion. Bo, do you want to change your motion, or do you want us to vote on it and see if it goes through?
My motion was to make a sign, so it doesn't really matter if we make it in paper or we make it in steel, or I really don't care.
Okay. So what do you want to do?
Let's start with a paper one. If it stays there, it stays there, and then it's easily replaced. And if it becomes a problem, then we'll put a big slab of steel there, and then they won't be able to do anything with it.
All right. So, Vika.
I think that if you guys make an motion, I would suggest that, you make a motion with whatever expenditure you want in it. We can start with doing the laminated one, and we could put something as simple as mask required on the wharf and inside the freight shed. And then in a week, if they're down, then we're already approved to expend a certain amount of dollars to make the steel ones that need to be put up.
How are people with that idea? Jay and Jen?
Yeah.
You're okay with that?
Yeah,
All right,
make
so
it
the
50
intent-
bucks.
The intent of the motion, Bo,
I just amend my motion to say that to not spend any more than $50.
okay? Mark, are you okay with that?
Yeah, will it say per town of Yarmouth and Shebig on it?
I think it should.
Fine with me.
So we'll
Is
send you
everybody
a $25 bill. That's
Okay, and CTC is willing to install, CTC is willing to put these signs up. So,
You're willing to staple it to the side? Okay.
so I can talk to Matt tomorrow and tell him that he has the go-ahead if we vote for this. And they can be the ones who watch to see if it's taken down and then report back to Vika. How does that sound?
sounds good.
Okay, all right. So anyone in the audience have a question about this issue? Matt, I saw Matt's hand up. Can you bring Matt up, Vika?
I can. I don't see him on here anymore.
Yeah, he's there with his hand up on the attendees.
Oh, here he is.
Matt, you're on. You just need to unmute.
Hi, yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to give the context on this is that the CTC crew has received like a number of complaints about people not wearing masks in the freight shed and on the pier. And, we just have no, it's not our freight shed. One way or the other, we wanted some clarification on what the town wanted to do. So we're happy to do whatever you guys want, whether it's a laminated sign that we can help put up or whether it's a metal sign, whatever you guys want to do, we're happy to. We got a crew that goes over there on a fairly regular basis, so we're happy to put it up for you. I think in my communication, I also brought up, and I don't know if this is going to get.
I'm going to bring it up under new business,
Okay.
under future agendas.
Okay, so yeah, I'm all set. That's all I want to say.
Okay. So we're ready for a vote. Bo,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Jen,
Yes,
Jay?
Yes,
Okay, and I'm a yes, so it's unanimous. So the idea is not to spend more than $50 if we have to spend any money. And up to that point, CTC will put up a sign and I'll talk to Matt tomorrow to make sure we get the language and they can put it up and see what happens. All right, great. The next thing on the agenda is the minutes.
Donna,
Yes,
I had a communication with somebody that was trying to follow the rules down at Bennett's. He wasn't quite sure what steps he needed to take. I told him to talk to the town office and at least let them know what his situation was. He couldn't shut off his vehicle that was barging over, and he wasn't. So basically, the way it happens is Lionel Plant comes in, and then they load his truck on, which was Pete Pellin's truck. Full disclosure, and he was having some ignition switch issues. So basically, if he shut off his truck, it was a whole fiasco to try to start the truck again. So his option was to just leave it on so that Lionel Plant didn't have to mess with that. And just looking to see if the board's got any other suggestions I can give him.
how long was he there?
He was there about 20 minutes, the truck was.
Well,
So,
I wouldn't think, I mean, he lives here, he knows when it's coming in, so if he's there 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue was hours that people were down there.
yeah. Well, there was issues of it being on. So he just didn't want to, he wanted to follow the rules and didn't want to get in trouble. So I told him to just call the town office. If it's an unusual situation, call the town office and let them know. So if they get complaints, they can at least tell them why. So.
That makes sense. Chris?
He did call me today and nobody else called after that.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any correspondence before we go to minutes? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes of December 15th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark seconded. All right. All in favor? Bo,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Now for future agendas, I think Matt's probably still on here. The other complaint that they have had, oh no, I guess he's not still on here. The other complaint they've had is people smoking on the floats and wharf while people are standing in line trying to get on the boat. And so their question was, could we pass some kind of a, if it's an ordinance, we can't pass an ordinance. That has to be at town meeting. I'm not sure what, we could do a public health issue. I'm not sure what the rules are in Yarmouth about smoking. I know you can't smoke in town, on town property on the town of Shebig, or in town vehicles, but I'm not sure if the wharf is an extension of the road, and I don't think we have anything that says you can't smoke in roads. So is that something we want to put onto a future agenda? Have time to think about? It's up to you guys. Bo,
I think we can bring it up and to probably make like designated areas, especially on this side. But on the Yarmouth side, we're gonna have to talk to Nat Tupper again and see either some kind of solution over there, make a designated smoking area over there also. And then
we do own the floats, so we probably could regulate a float, but okay, so let's put that on the future agenda. Unless anybody's opposed to doing that. Okay. The other thing that I would like to put on a future agenda, or we could discuss it tonight. When in late February of 2020, we had a serious discussion about reviewing the transfer station ordinance, solid waste ordinance, and the fees for the transfer station. And I was working with Marjorie and some of the staff, and we were just getting ready to start it, and then COVID hit in March, and that all went on hold. And what I would like to suggest is, and I've talked to Vicar about this, is that we revisit that. We're still waiting for Greater Portland Council of Governments to do some kind of an assessment, but this is more, this is not so much about how it's laid out up there as to how we actually deal with some of the things that we're dealing with and how much we're charging and that kind of thing. So I am willing to sit with the staff. That would be Vika and Gail and Annie. And if someone else would be willing from the board to be on that, just as a steering committee, just to kind of start going over that ordinance and then bring it back to the board for a workshop. Bo?
I'd be willing to sit on that. And I think it's a good thing considering we're looking at an increase in barging and on hauling costs.
Yeah, I think that, and this, I'll tell you right off the bat where I'm coming from, is that I believe that anything that I dump up there, I should pay for. If it's not my household, paper towels and trash. But I think that there's a lot of people in this community who don't think that. And that right now there's like 8 or 10 boats up there. we don't have anything about collecting boats. And it's out of control. And people and the staff can't be in all places at once. And that's part of the reason we wanted to have somebody look at the layout. And people are throwing stuff in there. We have issues about what is recyclable and what isn't, because the rules have changed over time. And so what's happening is the taxpayers are paying for a lot of people to get rid of trash that should be their own responsibilities. And so I guess that's where I'm coming from, is to try to make it more responsive. So that would be great, Bo. Mark?
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not gonna talk about it tonight too much. But I would ask Vika to consider as our new leader, our new town administrator, to sort of keep an eye on that specific area, meaning the brush dump where all the lobster traps are and the boats, to make sure that that doesn't continue to spiral out of control while we try to address any issues of operation and fees.
So is there anyone on the board who would be opposed to Bo and I just sitting down with those 3 town employees and going through, doing a first, it's really a first draft of some changes that we might make, and then everybody's going to have input in the end.
I'll throw my stuff away quick while you're doing that.
Okay, make sure if you've got anything that you want to really get rid of. Oh, Jen.
Do we ever, like, I know some of the lobster traps are up there actually, belong to people that don't live here. Do we ever send out bills to people for dumping stuff kind of illegally?
Well, you have to catch them. That's
Well,
part of the problem. I mean,
if their tags are on them.
Pardon me?
If their tags are on them.
Oh, that's a good
and
point.
I know of a boat that was dumped up there, and we know who the owner is, and the one that was off the stone pier for so long.
Right.
And then it, was in the cove forever, and then somebody hauled it up, and then it was brought to the dump, I assume. That person should be billed for that. So I just wonder if we do that, or what the process is.
Well, I think that first of all, we didn't even anticipate that that was an issue. So I don't know that boats are regulated. But I know that I paid $1 a lobster trap to get rid of traps that were not my traps, that were on my property. And I know that most people are not paying anything. And I mean, that's not why I'm in this, but I just think that everybody needs to be fair. And so that's a good point. And we need to figure out how are we going to get people to pay for the things they put up there. Jay and then Vika.
Why, the lobster trap problem, obviously, I don't know how they got them all out there without anybody knowing or noticing, but why don't we send out a postcard to, say, in March, to everybody that owns property on the island, saying, all of you folks who want to have a recreational license for lobster, we have traps available, $5 each.
I'll give them away free, the ones that I've still got to get rid of.
Well, my point is
Yeah.
try and take a little bit of a creative attitude towards it. There may be people that would, come up and get rid of them for us.
It's possible, but there's so many now that it's, I think the idea was part of what happened there was the year that the last time we had big dump day, and somebody came up and dumped all the stuff and filled all the dumpsters. And then after that, the idea was they would let people dump them up there, and they would just smash them and put them on the top of loads that were going off. But I'm not sure that that's really ever happened. But Jen's raised a point about, residents and non-residents, and, how do we deal with trash as it is?
Was it one person that dropped all those traps up there?
I don't know. I think it's multiple people. And from what I understand, that you can go in there anytime that gate is open. And that people are just going in there, helter skelter. And we had that whole discussion, remember a couple of years ago, about whether to keep that gate locked except when the dump was open. And so if Chuck and Doug are out working on the roads, there's nobody up there, and the dump is closed, and anybody could go up there and dump whatever they wanted. And, although Jen has raised the point about the numbers are on the trap. So I hadn't even thought about that, unless they take their numbers out. But anyway, all right, so we will get together with the staff, Bo and I, and we'll come back with a draft of something we can start working on, have a workshop.
Donna,
Yes,
will you include Gail Jenkins in that?
yeah, Gail Jenkins, Ann Thaxter, Vika, Bo and me.
Thank you.
The other thing is, I just wanted this will be a future agenda item that today, Vika and I met with Bonnie Baker and a couple of people from Indian Island, just as some of the preliminary work that he's been doing on the work that we hired him to do about Indian Island. And he is getting close to coming to the town for a presentation. He's setting up some meetings with some people in Augusta. That's the last things that he has to do. And then he will come and meet with the town before he writes a final report. I think that's what he said. I think I've got it right, Vika. And so we'll keep you updated on that. So that will be a future agenda item. Anyone else have anything that they would like to have as a future agenda item? Okay, seeing none. So the next item on the agenda is executive session. And we'd like Vika to stay